10 spine-chilling cemetery secrets, terrifying tales of the cursed and haunted exposed. The sun began to sink behind the horizon, casting eerie shadows in the sunset glow. Below the crest of the hill, the old cemetery loomed like a dark secret waiting to unveil its horrors. Claire stood at the entrance, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She clasped her children's hands tightly, whispering a quick prayer as the chill in the air wrapped around them like a ghostly embrace. A scavenger hunt for candy in a cemetery? Was it sheer madness? "See, Mom," Amelia chimed, her voice breaking the weighty silence. "It's Halloween. It'll be fun." Jake bounced on his feet, excitement bubbling within him. But Claire's thoughts were consumed with dread. Whispers of crime echoed in her mind. The restless spirits of the cemetery felt all too real in this community haunted by loss. She shook away the fear, forcing a smile. Amanda and Jake deserved a thrill, even if she dreaded the place. As they wandered through rows of ancient headstones, twisted trees clawed at the twilight sky, their gnarled branches painted with flickering candlelight from the distant houses. Laughter erupted from the kids as they discovered shimmering wrappers nestled in fake cobwebs, their youthful glee momentarily lifting Claire's heavy heart. But then, a faint rustle sent shivers down her spine. The wind whispered ominously, brushing against her skin like icy fingers. Glancing over her shoulder, Claire squinted into the thickening fog. It was just a shadow dancing on the edge of her vision. "Right. Did you see that?" Jake stammered, pointing toward a distant cluster of gravestones. His wide eyes filled with palpable fear. That's when they found it, an ancient headstone, its surface worn and cracked. The years had carved stories deep in stone, a chilling reminder of 3 siblings who vanished from this town, leaving behind only cryptic whispers. "Mom, look!" Amelia shouted, stepping closer, curiosity outweighing caution. A sudden gust flung a chilly breeze through the cemetery, and Claire felt a stark foreboding. "Stay close, you two," she warned, trembling inside. Even as her children wandered, Claire's unease deepened. The laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling silence. Then, from behind a nearby grave, an elderly man emerged. His lined face spoke of dark secrets and buried terror. "You shouldn't be here, lady," he rasped, his voice shaky. "The spirits stir on nights like this. They wander like lost souls." His eyes darted toward the graves as though fearing something sinister lay within. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The man's warning barely registered as Claire felt an icy wedge of fear pressing down on her. Dismissing him, she turned to gather her children when her heart stopped. Amelia was gone. One moment she was nearby, laughter echoing in the crisp air, now gone like a whisper. Panic surged through Claire, her breath quickening. "Amelia," she called, her voice slicing through the encroaching darkness. Nothing replied but the mournful rustling of leaves. Racing toward the entrance, each step felt like a heavy weight dragging behind her. The exit was just ahead, but when she glanced back, shadows stirred, weaving between the stones like predatory wolves. The air thickened, darkening her thoughts. Turning to the entrance, the authorities wouldn't take her seriously. They'd laugh, treating her desperation as overzealous madness. She couldn't wait. She had to find her daughter. Desperation gripped her. Her frantic heart echoed in the silence, drowning out the haunting whispers clawing at her mind. With every step deeper into the cemetery, she felt the presence of something sinister lurking, breathing, watching. The stories of the cursed siblings echoed louder, wrapping around her, as if the very earth below were alive, hungry for souls to consume. Just then, a chilling noise pierced through the tension. It was footsteps behind her. Claire turned, a shiver of dread cascading down her spine. She felt icy fingers of fear wrapping around her heart as the shadows deepened. What had she awakened in this hellish night? Something was coming, and she feared it wouldn't rest until it claimed yet another innocent life, and that life might be her own. Amelia! Claire's voice cracked, desperation clawing at her throat. The silence that followed was suffocating, filling the air with a heavy dread. The shadows crept closer, as if beckoning her deeper into the cemetery's abyss. Heart racing, she scanned the grave markers, each one a potential hiding place for her daughter. Panic drummed in her ears as thoughts spiraled. What if she was lost? What if something was out there, waiting? The chill wind howled, moving with intent as it wrapped around her, breaking her resolve. "Please, not tonight," she murmured, her breath visible in the cold air. She stumbled back toward the ancient headstone where Amelia had been last, her skin prickling, as if the very ground beneath her had a pulse. As she reached the decaying stone, she momentarily steadied herself, desperately willing her racing thoughts to slow. "We're just playing hide and seek, right?" she whispered to herself. A twisted part of her hoped the children would pop out, giggling, but no laughter came to cut through the darkness. A cold dread washed over her as she noticed how the heavy mist seemed to thicken, swirling around her like smoke. Claire bent down, running her fingers over the rough surface of the gravestone. "Please, Amelia," she felt a strange vibration, a tingle, as if the stone was alive. Just then, a low hum filled the air, reverberating eerily, syncing with her heartbeat. Her senses sharpened. It wasn't just the wind. It was a voice, whispering her daughter's name. The words beckoned her deeper into the cemetery. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye. It was Jake, standing frozen near a cluster of graves. Relief washed over Claire, but it was short-lived. He looked pale, his eyes wide with horror, staring at something she couldn't see. "Jake!" she called, rushing to him, ready to shield him from whatever threat loomed. "Mom!" he stuttered, pointing to an open grave just beyond him. The earth was freshly disturbed, soil clawed away, as if something had escaped. The horror of realization crashed into Claire. "Stay here," she commanded, regaining her composure, as she forced herself to peer closer into the pit of darkness. And that's when she saw it, a glimmer beneath the dark soil, something silver that reflected the dim light. For a moment, hope flickered. "Is that Amelia's bracelet?" Claire thought, a surge of frantic energy pushing her to climb closer. But the moment she reached out, a deep growl reverberated from nowhere, chilling her spine and sending Jake stumbling back into the shadows. "Mom, I don't like this. Let us go," he begged, his usually cheerful demeanor evaporating in the heavy air. Claire turned toward her son, but deep down, a darker voice pulled at her. What if Amelia needed her? A sudden chill invaded her chest. From behind her, the wind shifted, carrying the faint sound of children's laughter, sweet, yet tainted with malice. It echoed off the stones surrounding them, enveloping her in confusion. Were they taunting her? Or warning her? "Amelia!" she screamed again, her voice drowning in the suffocating fog. But a dark realization dawned. The voices, they were closer now, weaving through the graves, the energy in the air growing thicker, charged with something ominous and ancient. The unsettling feeling intensified, wrapping around Claire like icy tendrils. The ground under her feet felt unsteady, disturbed by unseen forces. Then, without warning, the shadows shifted, revealing figures just beyond the mist. Their outlines were indistinct but eerily familiar. Her heart dropped as she struggled to comprehend. These figures, were they the lost siblings? They beckoned, holding something delicate in their gnarled hands. Was it Amelia? Could she truly be so close? Mom! Jake's voice broke through her fog of horror. He was pulling away, panic clear in his eyes. Let us just go! But Claire hesitated, torn between the life of her son and the haunting call of her daughter. With every second, the darkness thickened, and the shadows of the past loomed large. Whatever lay behind her was awakening. She could sense it even. More menacing than before. But what if time ran out? What if Amelia wasn't just hiding, but had been taken? Please, I need to know, Claire murmured, feeling the weight of their history and hers pressing down. Did she dare to cross the line between them and the unknown? Then a terrified scream ripped through the cemetery, chilling her to the bone. It wasn't from Amelia or Jake. It came from somewhere deep within the fog, echoing the harrowing tales buried in the silence. With fear for her children blazing in her heart, Claire took a step forward into the invisible embrace of darkness, knowing that only one answer awaited within its depths. Cold sweat dripped down Claire's back as she stepped closer to the beckoning figures, her heart thudding like a drum. The soft rustling of leaves seemed alive, swaying as if trying to escape the impending horror. She could feel the gaze of the figures intense, penetrating, as if they could see into the very fibers of her soul. Claire! Jake's voice rang out, desperate and small. She turned to find him backing away, eyes wide as saucers, scanning the graves for any sign of safety. Please, we have to leave. Ignoring his pleas, Claire felt a pull, a magnetic force drawing her to the figures. They were so close now, their movements fluid as if gliding over the earth. She forced herself to look deeper into the mist, searching for the delicate hands that might be grasping Amelia's little bracelet, the remnants of a life she desperately wanted to believe would return. Amelia? She called out, her voice trembling. The whispering wind carried a softer laughter, playful yet sinister, deeper now echoing around her, intensifying the dread clawing at her throat. It felt like a game turned deadly, where the prize was salvation or a family lost forever. Then, the figures flickered and stuttered like a film stuck on a still frame, their faces twisting into an array of familiar yet grotesque forms. Tears streamed down Claire's cheeks as she recognized them, friends from her past, the children who had vanished over the years. They smiled, but their eyes, those hollowed voids, told a different story. Come play with us, Claire, they sang in soft, mocking voices, their tone dripping with an invitation laced with malice. She stumbled back, illness rising in her throat. No! You're not real. Panic pushed her words out in desperate gasps. Yet, with every breath, memories flooded back of laughter, of joy before turning to shadows in her mind. The long-buried guilt washed through her, gripping her heart tightly. Hadn't she also joined the search for them? Hadn't she lost others too? Mom! Jake's frantic shout snapped her back to reality. He stood at a distance, trembling. The unseen danger lurked at the margins of his innocence, and it raged within Claire, urging her to grab him and run. But where? The cemetery felt like a maze, twisting and shifting. The shadows weren't just threats. They were symbols of regret, whispering memories Claire buried deep. With every flicker of their forms, the dread surged, pulling her left, then right, as the figures clawed their way into her psyche. Amelia! She screamed again, and the sound bounced back, torn apart by the howling wind. The air thickened, an oppressive weight against her lungs, forcing her to move closer to the pit and the glint of silver. A last desperate cry surged through her veins. I want to leave without you. Jake clutched at her arm, his grip a lifeline. Mom, please! Fear dripped from his voice, and she could feel it vibrate through her bones, amplifying her own terror. But she took a step forward, drawn towards the grave. As she neared the edge, a hand shot up from the earth, clawed and dirt-encrusted. Claire stumbled back, the vision sending her heart into a frenzy. "What is happening?" she gasped. The shadows began to converge, wrapping around her and Jake. Desperation clawed at her, and she pushed her son behind her, preparing to fight whatever darkness had come alive. "Leave us alone!" she shrieked, her voice raw and hoarse. In the next moment, the fog parted abruptly. The laughing children vanished, and the ground trembled beneath them. An ear-splitting crack echoed, silencing everything for a heartbeat, before the cemetery erupted with a cacophony of whispers. Claire thought she heard Amelia's name mixed in the chaos. "Mom!" Jake cried, terrified, as the ground beneath their feet quaked. "What is happening?" Then, darkness consumed them. As Claire's vision faded and a scream launched in her throat, she felt herself pulled into the abyss. She grasped desperately for Jake, but the shadows seemed to twist around her, separating them as she was pulled deeper and deeper into the unknown. Then everything went silent. In that suffocating quiet, she heard Amelia's voice, so clear it cut through the darkness. "Help me, Mommy," but could she trust it? What lay waiting in the void, ready to ensnare her soul? Claire steeled herself, a single thought cutting through the panic. She had to find Amelia, no matter the cost. And then, everything shifted again. "Amelia!" The scream erupted from her lips, shattering the silence once more. But what loomed ahead was far darker than any nightmare she could ever imagine. The darkness encased Claire, thick and suffocating, blinding her to everything familiar. Her breath came in jagged gasps, panic curling around her heart like a vice. The sound of her son's voice lingered in the corners of her mind, a desperate echo fading further away. "Jake!" she shouted, her voice barely escaping the thick fog that swallowed her whole. "Mommy!" The voice responded, but it was distant, thin. Claire's heart raced, pounding in her chest like a warning drum. "Stay close." "I'm coming!" She stumbled forward blindly, arms stretching into the void, desperate to touch something solid, anything that could anchor her. Suddenly, a flicker of light glimmered ahead, breaking through the shadows. It pulsed wildly, beckoning her, illuminating glimpses of twisted trees and crushed gravestones. Was it a way out? Or another trap? Would it show her Jake, or lead her further into the nightmare? Each thought sent icy chills down her spine. Pushing towards the flickering light, the whispers intensified, countless voices cascading like the rustling leaves overhead, evoking memories of fear, loss, and guilt. The air thickened with the scent of damp earth and decay, and Claire felt bile rise in her throat. She pressed on, spurred by the fear of losing her son, but behind her, the ground heaved, dark tendrils of soil creeping closer. They writhed and squirmed, seeking to drag her back, to reclaim her into the depths. The figures emerged again, their distorted faces smirking, eyes hollow and gleaming with malice. "Join us, Claire," they hissed, a mass of whispers merging into one sinister invitation. She shook her head violently, pushing them out, but they laughed, their voices now a haunting melody. "Your past comes for you, Claire. It never left. Come, let us play no. I'm not afraid of you," she shouted, her voice cracking but fierce. With every step she took, the light got stronger, an almost tangible force ahead urging her to move on. Then, from out of the shadows, a shape emerged suddenly and sharply. Claire screeched to a halt, recognizing the figure. It was Jake, but his face was twisted in fear, mouth agape in a cry she couldn't hear. Her heart nearly shattered, and she lunged forward, extending her hand. "Jake! I'm here! Grab my hand! Mom!" He reached out, but the darkness twisted around him, a vicious, slithering mass trying to pull him into the abyss. Claire felt her own feet almost sink into the soil, the ground's grip tightening around her ankles as if it would tear her apart. She thrust herself forward, breaking free somehow, lunging at him, grabbing hold of his wrist just as the shadows pulled, wrapping around her son's small body. The moment their hands connected, a jolt of energy surged through her. They were bound together, holding on with sheer determination. But the figures loomed closer, grimacing, reaching. "Don't let go!" Claire shouted, but terror filled her eyes. Would she succeed in rescuing him, or was she dragging them both into an eternal nightmare? With all her strength, she yanked her son towards her, and as the shadows fought back, a blinding light erupted from their grasp. It surged, pushing against the darkness, threatening to shatter the grip of despair that surrounded them. Suddenly, Claire felt immense pain slice through her. Something was clawing at her heart, dragging her closer to that familiar void. She closed her eyes, thoughts racing. Amelia. The name slipped past her lips, a soft plea, a prayer rising into the swirling chaos. In that heartbeat of silence, the darkness roared, louder than a storm, clamoring for her surrender. But Claire clutched Jake's hand tighter, driven by one singular ferocity. She would not let the darkness take them. With a wild scream, she pulled, hoping against hope to break free, and the ground trembled violently beneath their feet. The cemetery shuddered, almost rebelling against the impending fate it had twisted them towards. Then, in a heart-stopping twist, the ground split open, revealing an endless abyss bathed in flickering lights and soul-shattering whispers. Was this the end? Or would the darkness finally reveal the truth of what awaited them? The answers lay just beyond the brink, but were they ready to uncover the horror that awaited? "Mom, what is happening?" Jake's small voice quivered beside her, sending chills of dread through Claire once again, and just as the light flickered and dimmed, she found herself faced with an impossibility. What if they weren't meant to escape after all? The darkness swallowed them whole. As the ground parted beneath Claire and Jake, a cacophony of distorted voices erupted around them, clawing at the edges of their sanity. Searing pain radiated from Claire's chest and gnawing fear echoing the whispers that filled the chasm. Each breath they took became heavier, as though the very air was infused with despair. "Mom, I can't hold on!" Jake cried, his small wrists slick with sweat. Panic twisted his features, and Claire felt her own heart racing, thundering like a war drum in her ears. "Hold on, Jake," she gasped, her voice almost lost in the storm of chaos around them. Just as she thought their connection might break, the light surged again. It wrapped around them like a cocoon, tightening with promises of safety. The shadows hissed fiercely, drawing back momentarily, as if uncertain about this new strength. But then it faltered, and the oppressive weight of darkness pressed in once more. "It's all a game, Claire." The sinister murmur slipped through the cracks, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. "Shall we play? Let us go!" Claire yelled, desperation slicing through her voice. If they could escape the yawning void, maybe they could outwit whatever malevolence lurked behind those twisted words. But the abyss pulled harder, hungry for their souls. "Mom, I'm scared." Jake's voice trembled, and Claire looked down at him, tears stinging her eyes. She had to save him. She had to be the shield against the dark that threatened to consume them both. "Don't look away," she commanded, her voice trembling but strong. They needed to face the darkness together. It was the only way. The ground rumbled again, and they were flung sideways as if the cemetery itself revolted. Shadows writhed like snakes, and Claire caught glimpses of faces sad, angry, pleading. She heard their stories woven into the darkness. "You abandoned us, you left us to decay," they groaned in unison, words tumbling out with vicious intent. Shivers ran down Claire's spine. She remembered those haunted eyes, the night Amelia had vanished. Had she contributed to their wrath? "No, it's not true. I did everything I could," she shouted back, but the flickering light dimmed, the shadows snarling in laughter, drowning her shouting. "Everything you could?" they taunted. "You can't save him if you can't save yourself." With fear pooling in her stomach, She felt the flickerings of hope fading as darkness clawed at her mind. Was this the punishment she deserved? Surely, there could be a way through. Out of instinct, Claire turned to the pulsing light, desperation feeding into her resolve. Together, she yelled, gripping Jake's small hand with every ounce of her strength. As if responding to her determination, the light flared with a brilliant intensity, pushing the shadows back another few inches. "We are going to make it!" Claire shouted through clenched teeth, squeezing Jake's hand as if it were a talisman against the encroaching dread. And then she saw it, a flicker of hope rising from the deep, a stairway emerging from the darkness, lit by the light, revealing a path upward. "That's it! Jake, we can climb! We can get out!" "Mom, what if it leads back?" His innocent worry pierced Claire's resolve. What if this led them back to the pain they'd fled from, tormenting them with memories and regrets? But as the shadows whispered poison into their ears, she knew they had to try. There was no other choice. "Trust me," Claire called out, urging him forward as she began to climb. They stepped toward the light together, the shadows writhing behind them, clawing at their heels like desperate hands. Every step felt electrifyingly close to salvation, yet every heartbeat resonated with the fear of failure. Just as they reached the top, a chilling laugh echoed deep and hollow, filled with victory. "You'll never escape the truth." Claire stopped, cold terror freezing her limbs. The light dimmed suddenly, flickering like a candle in the wind. "Mom!" Jake cried, looking back into the darkness. What lay behind them, hidden in the shadows? Would she face the truth to save her son, or was there something even darker waiting to claim them both? With a thundering heart, Claire realized they weren't just running from the shadows, they were running toward them. "Jake, no matter what happens, hold on." But was it too late? Was there more lurking in the depths than they could ever imagine? The light flickered, then flared back to life, illuminating the stairway just enough for Claire to see the faces she had glimpsed in the darkness. They weren't just fragmented memories, but twisted specters rising from the depths, their mouths twisted in silent screams, each a shard of anguish, wailing accusations that clawed at her heart. "Mom, please!" Jake's voice cut through her shock, a fragile plea that reignited her fight. She stepped forward, still tangled in horror, but resolute. With every step up the staircase, the shadows coiled tighter, like serpents ready to strike. Claire nearly slipped, her foot catching on an unseen root that seemed to reach for her like a hand from the grave. She gasped and corrected herself, her heart pounding against her ribcage. She needed to focus. "Keep climbing. We're almost there." Her voice rose above the whispers, firm and laced with urgency. But the shadows sneered in response, their threadbare laughter echoing. "You think you can escape the truth, Claire?" they hissed, their tones dripping with malice. "You've made your choices. Now, face the consequences." She gritted her teeth, breathing heavily, mounting dread clogging her throat. There was no choice but to confront the horrors that haunted her, memories of Amelia, the guilt that broke her, the nights she lay awake wondering what she could have done differently. "Don't look back," she yelled to Jake, feeling his grip tighten around her hand as they ascended higher. At the top, daylight glimmered like a mirage. It made Claire's heart race anew. But just as they neared the exit, the shadows surged forward, swirling like a tempest. Black tendrils lashed out, reaching for Jake. "Mom!" Jake screamed, wrenching against her grip. "Hold on!" Claire shouted, tearing her eyes from the light to the dark. Each shadow bore familiar faces, anger twisting their features. The wails rose, capturing her in a web of despair and blame. I can't do this," she cried, torn between saving herself and saving Jake. But just then, everything shattered. The ground below them rumbled, and from the darkness emerged a nightmarish figure, an amalgamation of all her fears, a grotesque version of herself. Its eyes glowed like coals, and its smile promised only torment. "Isn't this what you wanted?" it whispered, letting out a low, mocking laugh. "To face your true self?" Claire recoiled, bile rising in her throat. "No!" she screamed, rage igniting within her. "This isn't me." But the shadows pushed back harder, crashing against her like waves in a storm. Jake stumbled, his fear palpable. "Mom, what is happening? I don't like this." "Stay with me," Claire shouted, forcing herself to turn back to the flickering light. It pulsed rhythmically, urging her forward. What did she have to lose? The truth? With a surge of courage, she tightened her grip around Jake's tiny hand and took a leap. They soared into the light together, crashing against the ethereal barrier. For a breathless moment, everything froze: time, shadows, everything, even the lingering heaviness of guilt. And then, they slammed down hard on the cold earth, the light flickering. As Claire gasped for breath, she looked around. They were in a desolate graveyard, but the shadows shifted oddly, flowing like dark smoke. Inexplicable shapes hovered around tombstones, watching intently. "What have we done?" she thought, dread creeping back in as a new realization gripped her. A whisper echoed behind her, soft yet sinister. "You're not free, Claire. You've only just begun." Claire's heart dropped as she turned to face the cemetery. The graves were no longer mere resting places. They began to shake, the ground trembling ominously. Jake's eyes widened in horror. "Mom, what is happening?" But the only response was the sound of cracking earth, followed by a low growl that vibrated through their bones. They hadn't escaped. They had awakened something far worse. "Run!" Claire shouted, and as they sprinted away, a chilling laugh echoed from the shadows. This was just the beginning. Claire's pulse raced as she and Jake sprinted across the graveyard, each step drawing them closer to an unseen horror. The chill in the air thickened, pressing down like a heavy blanket, suffocating her urgency. She glanced over her shoulder, but the shadows that had once seemed like mere phantoms now writhed like a living nightmare. They danced in the dusk, taunting her as they stretched out from the tombstones with limbs of darkness. "Faster!" Claire urged, her voice breaking. Panic flooded her thoughts. What if they couldn't escape this time? The graveyard felt alive, every crack and creak resonating with an eerie heartbeat. The ground shook again, and the low growl morphed into a deafening roar that rattled her bones. "Where do we go?" Jake cried, fear cracking his voice. He tugged at her hand, his small frame trembling. "Just keep moving." She pulled him with all her strength, the words spilling out as she scanned the haze of tombstones. There had to be a way out, a path that wouldn't lead them deeper into this nightmare. The gravel crunched beneath their feet, and Claire's breath hitched as something glimmered in the corner of her eye, a flicker of light, faint but beckoning, just beyond a row of crypts that seemed to shimmer with malevolence. "Jake! Over there!" She pointed, hope igniting briefly like a spark. They dashed towards the light, dodging shadowy figures that slithered closer with each heartbeat. The chilling laughter followed them, sounding more like a mockery than a haunting. As they reached the cluster of crypts, the oppressive darkness seemed to seep in, snuffing the flicker. Claire pressed her back against the cold stone, panting. "Stay close," she whispered, more to comfort herself than Jake. "Mom." She looked down, seeing his wide eyes glistening with tears. The innocence in his gaze broke her heart, crashing into the walls she had built around her guilt. "We'll get out. I promise," she said, though the words felt like a flimsy shield against the shadows. The ground beneath them trembled violently, shaking the stones. And then it happened. One of the crypts bursted open with a rumble, the heavy lid crashing to the ground with a thunderous crash. Claire gasped, instinctively moving Jake behind her. As dust settled, a hand seemed to claw its way out, followed by a figure emerging from the darkness, draped in tattered robes, its face obscured. Claire's heart raced. "What do you want?" The figure bowed its head, a raspy voice emerging from its depths. "You seek answers, Claire. But are you ready to face the truth?" "No. No, we just want to leave," she stammered, her pulse like a drum in her ears. The specter raised its face, revealing hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through to her soul. "There is no escape, not for you. Not for him." A guttural scream tore from Claire's lips as she realized what that meant. This entity was their link to everything haunting her Amelia, the choices, the dark past she tried to bury. A low sob escaped her as everything crashed down around her. The crypt's mouth yawned wider, shadows creeping from its depths like eager hands. Claire felt the weight of her past crushing down on her. "Run, Jake! Now!" She shoved him toward the dim light she had seen earlier. But as she turned to follow, the crypt exploded, debris flying, shadowy tendrils bursting forth to ensnare her. She felt one wrap around her ankle, dragging her back. "Mom! I can't leave you!" Jake yelled, tears streaming down his face. "Go!" she screamed, raw panic giving her voice a terrifying edge. If they didn't separate, they would both be lost forever. As she thrashed against the dark force pulling her down, she saw Jake hesitate, torn between his mother and the unknown. In her heart, Claire understood. He was all she had left, but staying together might mean succumbing to the horrors lurking just out of sight. With a final burst of strength, she reached for him. "I love you, Jake. Now go!" And then, as if her words severed the connection, he turned and ran, disappearing into the dim light. Claire felt the shadows tightening around her, howling in triumph as they dragged her back into the void. "You sought escape," the figure whispered. "Now you will know despair." Just as darkness enveloped her, Claire's vision faded, but in that moment, a single quiet thought pierced through the chaos. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about Jake. The last flicker of light vanished, leaving behind a chilling silence. A new voice, chilling and familiar, beckoned through the darkness. "Welcome back, Claire. Are you ready to confront what you've hidden away?" She shuddered, realizing deep in her gut that this nightmare was far from over. Claire felt the cold embrace of darkness wrap around her, as if invisible fingers were clutching her throat. She gasped, her lungs starved for air. In the murky void, flashes of memories assaulted her. Jake's laughter, the warmth of sunshine, Amelia's smile flickering like a candle in the wind. The shadows swirled, whispering secrets in a language she could barely grasp. "Confront what you fear," the voice echoed, resonating deep within her. She fought against the shadows that sought to consume her. With sheer determination, she pushed forward. Suddenly, a sliver of light pierced through the gloom, illuminating a dirt path that wound deeper into the pit of her torment. Claire stumbled toward it, heart hammering like a frantic clock. "Jake!" she called out, her voice strained and weak. The darkness pulsed with a snarl, appearing to throb in response to her cry. The ground shifted beneath her feet, pulling her back. Claire stumbled as she gripped the edges of the path, but desperation infused her resolve. She wouldn't go back. Not now. Not when Jake was out there. Where had he gone? She scanned the shifting darkness around her, calling his name again, but only the echoes whispered back, mocking her. Shadows darted past on the periphery, and she felt the weight of them like 1,000 accusing eyes watching her every move. "Face your truths, Claire," the voice continued, now softer, but no less menacing. "Face them, and you may find your way." As the light flickered in and out, Claire began to see vague outlines forming distorted images of her past, evoking painful memories. The sight of Amelia standing over a coffin, weeping silently, sliced through her like a knife. Her mind spun, the regret coiling tightly around her heart. An icy hand gripped her shoulder, and she nearly jumped out of her skin. Claire whirled around, ready to fight, but instead, she found herself staring at a mirrored reflection of her own face contorted, filled with rage and sorrow. "You never let me go," it hissed, its eyes burning like coals. "No!" Claire screamed, feeling the urge to tear away, but the apparition stepped closer, melding into her consciousness. "You buried everything deep beneath your lies, your guilt, your shame. You want to save Jake? Then face the truth." Panic ensued, suffocating her. She could barely breathe, the memories closing in like a noose. "I didn't mean to. I tried to save her." The words tumbled out in a frantic rush, as despair twisted her gut. "Yet it was you who let go," the voice replied, trailing off into an echo that reverberated through the shadows. The ground quaked violently, the crypt surrounding her now alive with roiling shadows, inching ever closer. The darkness convulsed, each terrible cry mixing with her own sobs. She clenched her fists, fighting against the despair. "I can't let you take him. I can't let you take Jake." The darkness stilled, an eerie silence blanketing the air. And then she heard the distant sound of laughter, echoing through the void, chilling her to the bone. A shadow darted past her, and Claire's breath hitched. "Jake!" she shouted, but her voice faded, swallowed by the looming dread. What had she done? The very thing she feared was inching closer, a reckoning of the choices she made too late, of the love she could never retrieve. Then the laughter grew louder, and the shadows began to coalesce into figures. Familiar faces twisted in agony and anger. Amelia's face emerged, her eyes pools of sorrow. "You think you can escape this?" she whispered, but Claire recognized it now, a desperate plea wrapped in accusation. "No! I won't let you. I'll save him!" Claire cried out, the conviction in her voice trembling. But as she pushed back against the tide of faces surrounding her, the darkness roared. The figures closed in, faces merging into a swirling mass of sorrow and rage. Claire's heart raced in a panic, drowning in the chaos of her own despair. And in that overwhelming moment, a blinding flash of light erupted, illuminating the terror around her. Claire shielded her eyes, the brightness invoking hope, yet it felt like a trap. "Don't be afraid, Claire. The truth can set you free," the voice beckoned, clearer now, laced with both urgency and warmth. Would she find salvation in facing what she had hidden away? Or would the shadows pull her deeper into despair, locking her in a past she desperately wanted to flee? As the light began to dim, Claire braced herself for the choice ahead. A single word echoed in her heart, the way forward seeming unclear. Jake. In that moment, everything felt at stake. Would Claire stand and confront the darkness within? Or would the shadows take her under, another lost soul in the cemetery of her mind? To be continued. As the blinding light flickered and dimmed, Claire felt a familiar pull, an insistent tug dragging her back into the depths of despair. She blinked rapidly, trying to focus on the silhouettes around her. Anger and sorrow melded in their eyes, clouding their judgment, but despair was the real monster, thick, suffocating, curling around her throat like a vine. "Face the truth, Claire." That voice again, insistent, urging her onward. But the shadows seemed to swirl with menace, each one vying for her attention, pleading to be acknowledged. The faces grew clearer, each one a memory she thought she had buried. Jake's father, his brow furrowed, disappointment etched across his features. He stepped forward, his voice low, echoing in the silence. "You couldn't save her, could you? You let her down. You let us all down." "No!" Claire shouted, but with that simple word came a wave of guilt crashing over her. She stumbled back, trapping herself against the nearest shadow, which contorted and shifted, threatening to consume her. Another figure emerged, the school principal, his eyes sharp and accusatory. "And what of your choices, Claire? Every one of them has led to this." The principal's voice was a low growl, his disappointment wrapping around her like chains. "Jake, Where are you?" she screamed, desperation clawing at her throat. The darkness rippled, and suddenly she was thrown into a vision. Jake, alone in a foggy cemetery, looking lost and vulnerable amidst the headstones and graves. The laughter waned, replaced by a low whisper, "Help him, help yourself." Reality shifted again, and Claire felt herself spiral deeper into memory. She saw the day of the accident, Amelia slipping away, fingers slipping from hers. The way the world froze, the sound of her heart shattering, replaying in vivid detail. "No! Please, no!" she cried, clutching her head as the images swirled into a vortex of torment. "Will you finally admit it?" The mirrored reflection appeared once more, closer this time. "You walked away when you could have saved her. You let fear win. Get away from me." Claire screamed, flinging her arms as if she could physically shove the nightmare away, but the reflection just laughed, cruel and mocking. And then she heard it, the laughter again. This time, it was different. Playful, innocent. Her heart shattered anew as it filled her ears, and there he was, Jake, running through the cemetery, eyes bright with mischief, oblivious to the shadows lurking around him. "Jake," she whimpered, the sound barely escaping her lips. Every inch of her wanted to reach for him, to sprint across the swirling shadowy ground and take him away from this chaos, away from the guilt that gnawed at her being. At that moment, a gust of frigid air swirled around her. It tugged at her clothes, pulling her back. The shadowy figures shifted, tightening their grip as if to prevent her escape. The air thickened, wrapping around her chest like a vice. "Face your guilt, Claire." A chorus of voices thundered, drowning out her pleas. Panic surged in her veins as she fought against the swell of memories. Shadows clawed at her legs, pulling her down into despair. Then she remembered Amelia's last moments, the look in her eyes. I tried, Claire cried out, her body trembling. "I didn't mean to lose you, then save him," echoed the voice, shrouded in the shadows. In that chilling moment of clarity, the weight of regret swelled within her. If she didn't confront the darkness inside, it would claim both her and Jake. "Move on, Claire. You can't hide any longer." With that thought, she surged forward toward the looming figures, her heart pounding fiercely enough to drown out the laughter that threatened to devour their soul. The ground beneath her feet cracked, a chasm of light sparking open. Claire felt hope flickering, a path not just to freedom, but to redemption. "Jake!" she roared, stepping into the light, casting aside fear. But as she stumbled from one shadow into another, she realized too late that the laughter had transformed. No longer innocent, it became a dark cackle, reverberating with malice. Something was watching, something hungry. The flash of realization hit her like ice water. Facing one truth opened another door. Shadows grew thicker, whispering her name in an echoing chorus. Claire, what awaited on the other side? Would she confront the source of her nightmares? Or had she merely danced in the darkness, leading herself further into an abyss from which there might be no return, to be continued? Claire gasped as the swirling shadows began to coalesce into a darker figure, its essence woven from her deepest fears and regrets. It hovered above her, suffocating her resolve. "You've come to face me," it whispered, the voice a twisted mirror of her own. "Are you ready to confront the truth?" With every ounce of strength she had left, Claire looked up, meeting the figure's soulless gaze. "I'm not afraid of you," she declared, her voice shaking but fierce. Yet the shadows around her laughed, echoing with the pain and sorrow Claire had tried to bury. "Afraid or not, you have to take responsibility for the choices you've made." The ground shifted beneath her feet, dark tendrils reaching for her as they sought to pull her down. The weight of guilt settled heavily on her chest. "No! I will not let you take me!" she screamed, the turmoil in her heart igniting her courage. From the depths of that dark chasm, the vision of Jake flashed before her, his innocent face twisted in fear. Panic surged through her, consuming her worries into a fiery resolve. I will find him. I'll face every demon before I lose him, too. As she stepped forward, gathering all the strength she could muster, the shadows writhed violently, recoiling from the determination blazing within her. Claire focused on the memory of Jake's laughter, bright and carefree, its echo a pure light in the encroaching dark. With every footfall, hope surged, pushing back against despair. Let me see him, she commanded the swirling figure. Where is he? The figure shuddered, darkness pulsing ominously, as if considering her request. Will you admit it? You cannot save him until you save yourself, it hissed, darkness camouflaging any truth. You learned not to trust, and where did that get you? Claire felt the pull of guilt tighten around her, but she thrust it back, charging through the enveloping shadows. I can't undo the past, she shouted, her heart pounding like drums. But I can face it now for Jake's sake. The ground trembled again, rippling with the weight of her proclamation. Just then, the swirling mist thickened. The shadowy figure stood firm, its voice echoing ominously. Then show me, it commanded. Show me you're ready to face the consequences of your buried truth. A sudden rush of memories flooded in Amelia's laughter, turning into an echoing cry. Flashes of the night, she slipped away. Shadowy faces encircled Claire, ancient souls lost in their own agonies. You let go, Claire, just like you always do, they taunted, blending into the chorus, reinforcing the feeling of dread. No! Claire shouted, pushing through the memories, her heart aching with the undeniable truth behind them. Guilt and love intertwined, creating a powerful chain she would shatter. You're right, I let fear guide me. But not anymore. As she forced her way forward, each step cracking the facade of darkness around her, she felt a powerful pull toward the memories that haunted her, the choices that led her here. She stumbled into a small clearing in the fog. Shadows swirled, and in that moment, they presented Jake's face, wide with terror, reflecting her anguish. Mom, help me! His voice cried out, threading through the fog, crystal clear, sending ice coursing through Claire's veins. I need you. No! She gasped, feeling the bond tug at her core. Don't you dare take him! With a surge of fierceness, Claire lunged forward. The shadows swirled violently, exposing a glimmering seed of light at her feet. No more running, she bellowed, determination coursing through her. No more fear. With her heart swelled, Claire became a force against the dark, crashing through every haunting memory that tried to bind her. The shadows hissed, recoiling, as powerful waves of anger surged forward. Now was not the time for hopelessness, but a reflection of strength and love. Jake! She screamed once more, her voice resonating through the depths of the void, igniting hope. The air shimmered brilliantly as light flooded in, illuminating the very depths of her darkest fears. Suddenly Jake appeared at the edge of the light, trembling but alive. Mom! He cried, confusion washing over him. Hold on to me! Claire yelled, stretching her hand towards him, racing through shadows that attempted to ensnare her once more. With a leap of faith, she stepped into the light, reaching for Jake. Take my hand. As their fingers touched, a rush of energy flowed through them like a current, instantly severing the hold of darkness that had tried to consume them. Light erupted around them, rays of warmth and love enveloping both Claire and her son, pushing back the shadows that had lingered for so long. The weight of the darkness began to lift, and as Claire looked into Jake's terrified eyes, relief washed over her. We're going to be okay, she shouted, drawing him close, shielding him from the fading shadows. The murmur of the past lit the air, growing fainter with each beat of Claire's heart as she held onto her son. I'm so sorry for everything, Claire whispered, tears cascading down her cheeks. I will always find you, I promise. With that vow echoing off the graves, she began to feel the warmth of the sun breaking through the mist, illuminating their path to freedom. The cemetery itself trembled, the spirits that had once tormented her now gradually quieted, at last weaving their tales into the fabric of history, revealing the tragedy and loss without being lost forever. Hand in hand, they stepped forward into the glowing light, leaving the weight of silence and sorrow behind. They were free now, moving beyond the chains of guilt. Finally, ready to heal. As they emerged from the cemetery, the stars began to align above them, shining brighter than ever, the chill in the air vanishing, replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace. "I love you, Mom," Jake whispered, leaning against her shoulder. "I love you too," Claire replied, her heart swelling with a renewed hope. They had faced the darkness together and emerged into the light, ready to embrace their future, free at last from the past. And as they walked away, Claire knew this was not just a farewell to the cemetery, but a reckoning of everything they would carry forward, a promise to embrace the love they shared, to find joy again amidst the shadows. Now it was time to truly live. And with newfound purpose, they stepped into the world beyond, holding tight to the light of their love. Hey, if you enjoyed this conclusion and want more exclusive stories like this, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second. Hit that like button to feed the algorithm, and keep these stories coming. Flood the comments with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about Claire and Jake's journey. And be sure to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible conclusion. Show your support and let us keep this community growing.